Good afternoon and welcome back to the workbench. So today I'm going to do a little quick sort of test and review of some voltmeters, digital voltmeters I bought from AliExpress. Yeah, I bought them from AliExpress because it was kind of the only place I could find the ones that had the specifications that I actually wanted, and they were cheap enough that I figured, well, if it doesn't work I don't care, and I can reuse the little panel bezel things and make my own with the ICL 7106 or whatever. 7107. I can't remember. One's for LCD, one's for LED. I'd use the LED one, but whatever. Anyway, so I bought these to see what they were like. And yeah, I was going to do a video sooner than this about reality versus circuit simulation and sort of show some issues I had with a circuit that I was trying to simulate and I was getting weird results compared to what I actually built on the breadboard. And then, of course, it turned out that I was just doing something incredibly stupid with the simulation software, which I hesitate to admit to because it's so stupid. But yeah, anyway, it didn't. Turned out there was actually no problem with the software whatsoever. It was just me doing something incredibly dumb. So I couldn't make that video because there wasn't really anything to make the video about, and yeah, so anyway, these turned up recently and I decided I'd do a video on those instead. So, according to the sticker, there should be digital voltmeter. Should be 3 of them, in fact, because I ordered 3. I ordered one of each colour. They had red, blue and yellow, I think, or green. I don't know, yellow and green, depending on the LEDs. Sometimes they all look the same. But anyway, so there's 3 of those, should be. Okay, so here's the AliExpress listing showing these voltmeters that I purchased, and you can see they have 3 colours here. Yeah, there's some sort of confusion over whether this is supposed to be yellow or green. It says yellow up here in the title, and then down here if you hover over this one it says green, but I've come to notice that a lot of green and yellow LEDs are often very similar, so all depends on what you think it looks like. Cheap ones don't seem to have much differentiation between the 2 colours, so anyway, I suppose that's irrelevant. But if you are looking specifically for green, I don't think these are actually green. Going by the photo, they look much more yellow than green. But anyway, there you go. At $2 each, what do you expect? If these things work, they're a pretty good deal for that price. But the specifications, unfortunately, are not that great. I mean, the information is not that great. It doesn't tell you a great deal. Tells you the very basic stuff. You can get 3 different colours. Tells you how to wire it up. Black line connected to the public negative, so common negative connection, black between the 2 voltages, the supply voltage and the voltage you're measuring. Red line connected to positive pole of the power supply. That's your supply voltage to the meter, which can be between 4 and 30 volts, as displayed down here. Yellow line connected to positive pole of tested power supply, so that's your measurement wire. So you can measure between 0 and 30 volts, and you can drive the display from 4 to 30 volts. Has 3-digit display. There's just dimensions of all of it there. Which is pretty good. I wanted the small one and I wanted the 3-wire one, so I can have a separate voltage for the supply voltage, so I can actually measure down to 0 volts. And that's in comparison to a lot of ones you can buy on eBay and AliExpress and stuff, are only 2-wire ones, and they're designed, I think, more for like automotive use, for measuring battery voltage. So, with the idea that you're always going to have a fairly high voltage from the battery, and therefore you're always going to have enough voltage to power the display, and you're never really going to want to measure down to 0 volts anyway. It's not going to matter. And if you tried to, obviously the display would just turn off because there'd be no power to actually run it. Whereas with this one, you have a separate supply voltage, and then you can measure all the way from 0 to 30, or at least that's what they claim. We'll find that out when I actually test them. Anyway, so we've got a decimal point here. So whether the resolution of these, whether it'll auto switch over to down to here and give you down to 10 millivolts below like 10 volts or not. Now I'm guessing, given the price and everything, it's probably not going to do that. It'll probably just stay, so when you get down to 9 volts, it'll be like 9.9 then 9.8. So you do only have like resolution to 100 millivolts, I suppose. Again, we'll find that out when I test it, but probably won't go down to 10 millivolt resolution, I don't think. It'd be nice if it does, but I'm not going to expect that. There's nothing here to suggest that it does. Some of the other ones do, but they were too big for what I wanted. I wanted the really small one. These ones are actually pretty tiny, apparently. But anyway, if we go down here, you can see the layout. It's very simple. So it looks like we got like a little microcontroller, pretty much guaranteed that's a microcontroller. Driving this multiplexed LED display, and then you got little 3-pin voltage regulator to power this. So if the input voltage is 4 to 30 volts, then this is probably a 3.3 volt regulator. I mean, going at 7133H looks like it says. So yeah, 3.3 volts, I guess. Running this, and then we got like a resistor divider network, something to divide the voltage down to something that'll be acceptable for this, because it's obviously only running off 3.3 volts. So if you're trying to measure 30 volts with it, then you're going to have something that'll divide that down to something below 3.3 volts. So that you're not going to blow up the input pin to this. Obviously, if you put just 30 volts directly on it, then it'll blow the chip up. You got some couple of decoupling capacitors, I guess, for the regulator and stuff like that, and don't know, maybe reverse protection diode or something like that. I don't know, without looking at the schematic. Obviously, there is no schematic. I'd have to reverse engineer it if I wanted to get one. But anyway, so I mean, this thing's all going to depend really on how good the software is in this microcontroller. So now that we've had a look at the listing and seen what these things are supposed to be capable of and what they're supposed to look like and everything, let's open the bag and see if they are in fact what they say they are, and give them a test and all that. So just cut this open. See what kind of see what thing we've got here. So the typical Chinese sort of foam wrap stuff, very common. I can see some wires sticking out the side. Looks like a good start. So let's open that. And have a look. They don't often seem to use bubble wrap. They often seem to use this kind of foam stuff. Kind of like I don't know, seems to work. Anyway, that's good. So we've got a sort of blob of plastic and voltmeters and things all mixed up in a... Oh, they're just kind of stuck together. Oops. There we go. Well, that's nice. They are definitely small, which is what I wanted. Got a fairly decent lead length on them, and they do look something like the picture. Probably can't see that. I'll change the camera angle in a minute and we can have a look at them up close anyway. There we go. So let's see. They all come in individual bags, which is seems pretty logical. So what do we got? So the circuit layout does in fact look like it's does in the picture. The things do all look pretty much as they say. This one's listed as blue. On the label, this one says blue. This one says red, and this one says green. Sure to make that out. So yeah, I have my doubts about that. Like I said in the photo, it looked very yellow rather than green to me, but hey, that's just my opinion. There's definitely nothing written on these microcontrollers, that's for sure. So who knows what they are. But yeah, there we go. It is at least it is a good start. The do look like what I ordered, and everything seems to be correct up to this point. So I'll switch the camera around, like I said, and we can do some close-ups of these and actually test them and see if they function and are actually reasonably accurate and anything like that. Okay, so just about to do some tests. Before I do, I just want to take a close-up look at this thing. So the circuit board definitely looks pretty much exactly the same as in the picture, with the exception of this capacitor over here. I guess C4 next to the input of the regulator is missing. They haven't bothered with it. I guess they're using C3 instead. Depending on the stability of these, maybe I could add one in if I needed to. Like I said, the microcontroller has absolutely nothing written on it. You can see there's nothing there at all, so who knows what that is. Probably one of those cheap paddock ones or whatever, like Dave Jones was on about. Something like that, probably, because that's how they get the prices down so low. Anyway, there's your input sort of divider or whatever, and adjustment potentiometer R2, I guess to calibrate the voltage or something. I don't know, we'll maybe play around with that and see if it does anything. There's your input connector, and I did notice on here next to the regulator there's some sort of damage to the board. I don't know where they've sort of depanelized it, or they've just done that while sticking it into the case, where they've got these little clips in the side there, so who knows, but it doesn't seem to be any damage to the components or anything, so that's alright. I just wanted to take a note of this, the regulator here. So that's a 7133H, and the logo there is Mingda, which is obviously a Chinese version. I think they're probably just copying another vendor like Holtec or something. And there was something to note about that, because this thing does claim to be a 30 volt up to 30 volt supply, and if we look at the data sheet on this part, let me just switch over to that. So here's one of the data sheets I was able to find. So this is the Chinese version, obviously. We do see here it says 32 volt. I guess that's the maximum voltage rating. If we scroll down here, it does say V in 32 volts. This looks like sort of a maximum rating thing. And you go to the English version of the data sheet, that pretty much confirms that. High input 30 volt regulator. It only does 30 milliamps, but it is designed for sort of a high voltage thing. So there's high input voltage up to 30 volts over here, and then we scroll down. Absolute maximum rating is 30 volts. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, they claim it can go from 4 to 30 volts, which makes sense. But then they say absolute maximum rating is 30. In this one, it says it's obviously saying 32. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to run it off something that high. I mean, it can go down to 4, so you might as well just run it off 5 volts or something. And that's going to lower the power dissipation as well in the regulator. Something like 5 to 9 volts or something is probably the best idea. Keep the power dissipation down and all that, but I guess you can run it off high voltages if you have to. I personally wouldn't. Interestingly enough, the Holtec version, for example, it claims it can only do up to supply voltage 26. So yeah, it's interesting. So I don't know. I mean, given that this is only 26, these ones claim 30, 32. I don't know if I want to run it that high. I probably wouldn't want to go above 20, just in case. But we'll see. Maybe I'll test it at 30 and see if it blows up or not. But I wouldn't run it at that. For what I'm going to use these for, I'll probably run them off 5 volts or something. Okay, so here's my test setup for this little voltmeter thing. I chose the green one because I want to see if it's green or yellow. So the test I've got here, I've got a 9 volt battery which I'll use to power the meter. And then I've got the negative of that connected to the power supply negative here. And I'm going to use the adjustable voltage on this to change the voltage displayed on here. And I've also got my multimeter over here to show the voltage that this is outputting with high precision and high accuracy. So we'll see if this matches this and whether it's accurate or not. So I'll just power this up with this battery, and well, interesting. So on the screen here it does look green, but in real life I personally think it looks quite yellow. So yeah, I guess that's open to interpretation. But anyway, it's pretty good that it is showing the decimal point on the left side, so that does suggest that it does have an auto ranging feature. So that's a good start. So let's see. If I connect this here, and this there, I'll give me my voltage there. So I've got this set to 30 volts. I turn this on. It displays 29.7. So yeah, the decimal point does move, so that's quite good. So this is displaying 29.9, displaying 29.7, so it's close, but not... okay, it's got an overrange indicator, that's good. Let's see, what is it? 29.9, let's creep up a little bit, 29 point... This is practically 30, it's saying 29.8, so... yeah, not perfect. If I go a little bit higher, okay, 29.9 at 30, so it's just gone from like 29.89 to 29.90, I guess. If we keep going up a little bit, yeah, it hits over range, so that's good. It's got an overrange indicator. It doesn't blow up, but it doesn't seem to be perfect. It doesn't display actually 30, it just displays 29.9. It's kind of annoying, but hey, it's close enough. So if we go down, let's take it to say 20 volts or so. We've got 19.47, it's 9.3. Try for exactly 20. See what we get. So 19.9. So it's pretty close. It is pretty close, but not perfect. Let's go down below 2 digits and see if it the extra resolution comes in, if it's any good. So let's go down, 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 down. .5, 10.8. Oh yeah, and we go down below 10 volts, it switches over to 2 digits past the decimal point, so that's good. So yeah, it seems to be 0.05 volts or so lower than the actual value. Of course, this multimeter could be out of calibration, I don't know, but I think it's pretty good though. 939, it's close, but not perfect. Multiplexing is okay. The digits do sort of dim down when they've got more than a couple of segments lit, which is to be expected for something like this. Let's go all the way down to 0, and it displays 0. That's pretty good. Let's bump it up a little bit. 0.7, 0.07 is saying 0.03, so yeah, I mean it's 0.05. It's pretty good. I mean, for a $2 voltmeter, it's not bad. It's not bad at all, actually. I think I saw a review of some little cheap voltmeters like this on another channel, and they did seem to be out by more than this one is. So this one's definitely looking not bad. So yeah, let's take it back up to like 30 and see how fast it responds. So if I just take it all the way up to 29. And then I'll take it straight down to 0 and just see how fast it goes. Changes pretty quick. It's not bad. Not as fast as an analog meter, obviously, but you know, it's pretty good for what it is. Yep. Okay, I'm going to set this to like 20 volts. And I'm going to swap the other meters in and see how they go. Ah, that's close enough. Okay. I'll turn this one off. And then swap this in with another meter. Let's see. Okay, here's the another one. Let's unplug this. And oops. Let's plug this one in. So this one is, I'm not sure, either red or blue. I don't know. Okay, that's red. It's the red one. That's pretty bright. It's brighter than the yellow one. Or the supposedly green one, but anyway, let's turn this back on. So we've got 20, saying 19.9, it's pretty much exactly the same as the other one. So that's pretty good. Let's try the blue one. I think this is the blue one. Is it? No, it's the yellow one again. Whoops. Unfortunately, they're not marked as to what colour they are. There we go. It's the blue one. Let's try this again. So 20. Okay, this one's slightly higher. So this one looks more accurate than the other two, or calibrated more correctly. So yeah, let's try going down. 9.37. So yeah, that's pretty close to what this one's saying. So that's nice. Going down. So I mean, yeah, at the bottom end of the range, 0.88, 0.84, it's pretty close. It's going out a little bit down the bottom end of the range. If we get back up to the top, sort of, I mean, well, we can't really tell because we only got one digit there, so yeah, but it's definitely pretty close. And it's not perfect, but yeah, go over the range, but yeah, it's so within tens of millivolts for this one. So yeah, there we go. So auto ranging, nice. I didn't expect that, but they've got it there. They didn't say that on the listing, but it's definitely got it, so that's good. Yeah, what else is there to say? I suppose we could get the green one back. I mean, this is saying 10 here, exactly 10 here. Let's try to bring it down to 9 point. .88, so it's off a little bit there. It's not bad. I'm going to try adjusting the yellow one and see if I can get the accuracy a bit better. So we've got the oh god, now I've mixed them all up again. Which one is which? I don't know. Is this the yellow one? Yeah, it's the yellow one. Alright then. Let's get a little trimmer adjustment tool. See if I can adjust this. Okay, well unfortunately I don't have anything small enough to adjust the really tiny little trimmer pot on the back of this. So whether or not you can use that to calibrate these things more accurately, I don't know. But for what I want to use these for, they're just going to be for another power supply, adjustable power supply like this one. Well, not exactly the same as this one, it's going to be a bit more basic and won't have current limiting, but I just want another supply. I've kind of found that, you know, just having one is not enough. For example, with this I have to use a battery, and it would be nice to have two different supplies. So yeah, I mean, for a basic sort of readout, I mean, you know, that's close enough, and if you really want to check it, use a decent multimeter anyway. So yeah, but for a general sort of figure, I think these should be perfectly fine, even if I can't calibrate them any better than what they are. So yeah, I might see if I can find something to adjust that with later, but as it stands, I mean, it's still pretty close. Probably really wouldn't get it that much more accurate than this, given how cheap and sort of basic it is, but yeah, I mean, just out of the box, it's pretty good. Works well, and I'm pretty impressed actually. It's better than I expected it, to be honest. Like I said, I didn't expect the auto ranging function with the decimal point there. So you know, as you change it down to below 10 volts, the decimal point shifts from this point here. So yeah, I really like that. I didn't expect that at all. I mean, the listing made no mention of that whatsoever. No suggestion as to any sort of specifications of accuracy or you know, anything really. It's just voltmeter, 3 colors, 3 wires. You know, you saw the listing. There's practically like no information there, but these are definitely pretty nice. Like I said, not perfect, not exactly the same as the actual voltage, but hey, it's pretty good. Pretty good for what it is. My final test I'll do just now is power it off 30 volts and see if it can actually handle that. Because you know, it says it can handle up to 30 volts. So hang on, what I'll do, I'll turn this off. Disconnect this and well, I'll just connect this here instead. We connect that there. Turn it on. There we go. So it draws about, well, yeah, 50 milliamps or so. It says the regulator is a 30 milliamp regulator, so that makes sense. So it's at 10 volts. It's about as what it was off the battery there. You get down, it starts fading out at about 3 volts. It's still going actually. Goes off at like 2.2 volts, but you know, perfectly usable above. And they say it can be used down to 4 volts, so let's see. Five. It's working. Still going at 3.8, so it's not bad. 4 volts, yeah. And it says it can do up to 30, so let's take it up to 30 volts. Just going to go really slow here. $28, $29. Datasheet claims this regulator is good for 32 volts. At least in the Chinese datasheet anyway. There we go, 30 volts. It's running at 30 volts. It's not blowing up. see. There's a bit of heat coming off that thing though, I think. Is there? Yeah, that's pretty hot. So that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't want to run this thing off 30 volts, probably, even though it can handle it. It's probably better off staying at like 10 or 5 to 10 volts or something. It's probably the best idea. Is there anything else I can do with it? Not really, I guess. That's pretty much it, I suppose, apart from trying to adjust it, but I can't find a tool small enough. But yeah, it definitely goes up to 30 volts, though I wouldn't recommend running it at that. The regulator did start to feel pretty hot when I did that, so I'm running it at 10 volts now, and I can't feel anything. But yeah, it's reasonably accurate. It's pretty darn cheap. It does what I want, and it's got auto ranging function, which is surprising. I didn't expect that to be on there. So overall, it's actually a pretty nice little meter, I reckon. So there we go, 3 little voltmeters in red, green and blue, or rather red, yellow and blue, because even though that looks green, it's really not green. The stock photo on the AliExpress listing is much more accurate in my opinion to the colour of the green/yellow one. I know on the video, at least to me, it looks a lot greener than it is, and in real life it just looks yellow to me. So it's also dimmer than the other two. The red and blue are quite bright, and this one's dim. I don't know why that is, but you know, there's a difference there. So would I recommend buying these? Well, actually I would, surprisingly. They're not bad. I mean, you know, the precision accuracy is not perfect. They could do with some adjustment, and if I do find a tool small enough to adjust them, I'll give it a go and write in the description whether or not that was successful. But yeah, it's for a general purpose voltmeter. If you don't care too much about the accuracy, then it's pretty good value, and they're quite nice if you want a really small one. Because I mean, yeah, these things are about, I don't know, I think they're 3 centimeters long by about 2 centimeters high, 1.8 maybe. I don't know. I suppose I could measure that, couldn't I? Let's see. I know it says in the listing, but yeah, 2.2 for the whole bezel and 3.4 for the front, and of course the cutout if you were mounting this in a panel. You'd want that to be a little bit smaller than that. This is the dimensions on the listing for, you know, the panel size cutout and all that. It's got these little clips on the tops and bottoms to clip it into a panel, so you could probably get away with anything up to about 3, maybe 4 millimeters thick panel. Probably best to go for like 2 millimeters or 1 millimeter, 1 to 2. 2.5 maybe, but 3 and 4 might work. Yeah, but they're quite nice little meters. They got some good auto ranging functionality, which works well. They seem pretty stable, and yeah, I mean, in terms of quality, how long they're going to last, I don't know. That's, I guess, the thing remains to be seen, doesn't it? I would say with that voltage regulator, 3.3 volt regulator, yeah, I wouldn't really recommend running it above like 10 volts for extended periods of time. Definitely not 30. I mean, they say it can handle 30 volts, and it can. It doesn't actually like explode immediately at these 30 volts, but when I put my finger on it, it was quite hot, so definitely I wouldn't want to run these off 30 volts for extended periods of time. I think that regulator would probably fail quite quickly. So yeah, I'd say keep it 10 to 5 volts or so if you want to make these things last a decent amount of time. And yeah, I mean, because it's only 3.3 volts supply that it needs for the micro, then, you know, 5 volts, even 4 volts is perfectly fine. So, you know, there's no real need to go to 30. It doesn't really make sense. If you had these, if you were measuring in an environment where you had supply voltage of only 30 volts, that was all you had, and you did want to measure 0 to 30, then definitely put some sort of pre-regulator in, I reckon. Even like a simple Zener diode and pass transistor sort of thing, or even just a big dropper resistor or something. But I really wouldn't want to run those tiny little surface mount regulators at anything above 10 volt input. In my mind, it would just seem like it wouldn't last very long. But apart from that, though, there's nothing really else to watch out for, I don't think. Of course, in saying all that, you never know how the quality control might be on these things, and in 3 months' time, the batch they're producing from the same factory might be off, and who knows if the accuracy will be any good. You never know. But for what these are, and this quick test of doing them, I think they're not bad, and I would recommend them if you want a cheap basic voltmeter. They're definitely more useful than the 2-wire ones because you can measure down to 0 volts with them. So yeah, good for a power supply or some other sort of application where you need to measure down below the supply voltage of the chip. As for quality, they seem pretty good. Again though, unknown microcontroller, unknown code. If you blow that up, well, you can't really replace it. You just have to buy a whole new thing. That's why I'd prefer a design based on, say, the ICL 7106, because you can just replace that chip directly if you blew it up. But hey, it is what it is at $2. I mean, does it really matter? Who knows? Anyway, hopefully that was useful. Hopefully it gave some insight into these things here, and hopefully it was enjoyable. So I'll see you next time.